Many people confuse being alone with being lonely, but the truth is that these two states are completely different. Loneliness is the feeling of emptiness and disconnection, often tied to the absence of others or the lack of external validation. It is a sense of longing for someone to fill the silence or provide comfort, and it can leave people feeling incomplete or unwanted. On the other hand, solitude is not about emptiness but fullness. It is the ability to enjoy your own presence and discover a deeper connection to yourself and to God without depending on anyone else. The difference lies in perception and in the foundation of where peace and joy are rooted. When someone sees solitude as abandonment, they feel lonely. But when they see it as an opportunity for growth, reflection, and spiritual connection, they discover the secret to lasting happiness. Being happy alone is one of the most empowering abilities a person can cultivate. It allows you to stop looking outward for fulfillment and begin looking inward, where true contentment resides. In solitude, you are not pressured to perform, to meet expectations, or to maintain masks for the approval of others. Instead, you find freedom to be authentic, to think clearly, and to grow into who you were always meant to be. The noise of the world often drowns out your inner voice and even God's whisper to your soul. But when you embrace being alone, you create space to hear, to reflect, and to rediscover what matters most. Solitude becomes a sacred classroom where you learn resilience, strength, and self-respect. This shift in understanding begins with realizing that no human being, no matter how close, can ever completely fill the void inside you. Friends and family are blessings, but they are not the source of ultimate peace. If you depend entirely on others for your happiness, you hand over control of your emotional state. When they leave, disappoint, or fail you, your peace crumbles with them. But when you learn to be content in solitude, you reclaim that control. You no longer live at the mercy of people's presence or absence. You discover that your deepest fulfillment comes from God, who never leaves nor forsakes you, and from embracing who you are without apology. Solitude is also a mirror that reveals what is within. Many avoid being alone because it forces them to face truths they would rather ignore. Silence can expose insecurities, unhealed wounds, and hidden fears. But avoiding solitude only delays healing. When you allow yourself to sit in that stillness, you begin to confront those inner struggles and release the weight they carry. You realize that loneliness is not solved by surrounding yourself with crowds, but by reconciling with yourself and your Creator. Healing takes place in the quiet moments when you admit your pain, surrender your burdens, and let God restore your heart. That is when solitude transforms from something frightening into something liberating. In solitude, creativity also flourishes. Some of the greatest thinkers, leaders, and visionaries in history discovered their strength and wisdom in seasons of aloneness. Alone time allows your mind to wander, to create, to connect dots you never saw before. It nurtures vision because it removes the distractions of constant noise. People often underestimate the power of being alone with their thoughts, but it is in those quiet hours that clarity emerges. You see your purpose more clearly, you redefine your goals, and you align your heart with God's calling. Another powerful dimension of solitude is that it helps build emotional independence. Many relationships fail or become toxic because people enter them with the expectation that the other person will complete them. This dependency creates pressure, resentment, and imbalance. But when you are already whole in yourself, you approach relationships with strength instead of need. You are not clinging for survival, you are sharing out of abundance. Learning to be happy alone ensures that when you do connect with others, it is from a place of genuine love and choice, not desperation or emptiness. Spending time alone also teaches gratitude. Without constant external stimulation, you begin to notice simple joys, the warmth of the sun, the sound of the wind, the peace of prayer. You become present in the moment rather than constantly chasing the next distraction. Gratitude is easier when life slows down and silence allows you to reflect. You begin to see how blessed you already are, and that realization itself becomes a source of joy. The greatest truth about solitude is that you are never truly alone. Even in the quietest, most isolated moments, God is with you. His presence fills the emptiness that people cannot. When you shift your focus from who is absent to who is always present, solitude becomes sacred. It is not about sitting in emptiness, but about resting in divine companionship. That understanding transforms what many fear into something deeply fulfilling. It changes loneliness into a spiritual retreat, a place where your soul is renewed and your faith strengthened. Happiness found in solitude is not about cutting yourself off from the world or denying the importance of relationships, but about cultivating a mindset where your peace is not dependent on anyone else's actions or presence. The ability to be happy alone begins with understanding the value of self-acceptance. Too many people rely on external validation, believing that their worth comes from how others see them, what they say, or how much approval they receive. This cycle leads to dependency, insecurity, and disappointment. But when you shift your perspective and learn to love yourself as you are, you begin to see solitude not as punishment, but as an opportunity to grow. Self-acceptance becomes the foundation upon which solitude turns into contentment. It allows you to see that you don't need constant affirmation to know your worth, because your identity is rooted in something deeper, something unshakable. Another part of learning to be happy alone is building inner strength. When you depend too much on others for comfort, you risk being shattered when they are not available. Life inevitably brings moments when people leave, betray, or simply cannot meet your needs. If you have not cultivated inner strength, these moments can leave you feeling helpless and broken. But solitude trains you to rely on your own resilience. It teaches you that your strength does not come from the crowd around you, but from the spirit within you. Every moment spent alone becomes an exercise in courage, patience, and independence. You begin to see that your happiness cannot be stolen simply because someone else fails you. Instead, you discover a self-sustaining peace that stands firm regardless of circumstances. Solitude also nurtures self-discovery, something often missed in the constant noise of the world. When you are surrounded by people, influenced by their opinions, and pulled in different directions, it becomes difficult to truly know who you are and what you want. Many live their lives based on expectations and societal pressures, never stopping to ask themselves what really matters to them. Time alone allows you to peel away those layers and connect with your authentic self. You begin to hear your own voice more clearly, to understand your values, passions, and dreams without interference. This self-awareness is the foundation for both confidence and fulfillment, because it keeps you aligned with your true path, rather than chasing after what others demand of you. An important lesson that comes with embracing solitude is learning how to enjoy your own company. People who fear being alone often do so because they have not yet developed a relationship with themselves. They find silence uncomfortable because it forces them to face their insecurities. But when you turn solitude into an opportunity for self-nourishment, it becomes enjoyable. You learn to fill your alone time with meaningful activities that uplift you, whether it is reading, reflecting, praying, exercising, or simply appreciating nature. You stop running from the silence and start embracing it as a source of peace. The shift happens when you see solitude not as emptiness, but as a space filled with possibilities. Spiritual connection also plays a major role in learning to be happy alone. In solitude, distractions are removed, making it easier to connect with God on a deeper level. It is in the quiet moments of prayer, reflection, or meditation that you can feel divine presence most powerfully. This connection brings reassurance that you are never truly alone, even when physically by yourself. The realization that God is with you transforms solitude into a sacred experience. It brings peace that no human relationship could ever provide, because it is rooted in eternal truth. When you embrace solitude as a chance to walk closer with God, your time alone becomes not a burden but a blessing. Another dimension of solitude is the freedom it gives you from comparison. The modern world is filled with pressures to keep up with others, to measure success by material wealth, popularity, or social media appearances. These comparisons often rob people of peace and joy. But when you are alone and focused inward, you detach from the need to measure yourself against others. You begin to appreciate your own journey, your unique blessings, and your progress without feeling diminished by someone else's accomplishments. Solitude helps you see that your worth does not come from outpacing others, but from fulfilling your own purpose with integrity. In addition, solitude allows you to recharge emotionally and mentally. Constant interaction, whether through work, family, or social obligations, can drain your energy. If you never step away, you risk burnout, irritability, and stress. Solitude acts as a reset button. It gives you time to reflect, breathe, and release the emotional weight of everyday demands. In this sense, solitude is not isolation but restoration. It equips you to return to your relationships and responsibilities with renewed patience, clarity, and energy. Finally, learning to be happy alone creates healthier relationships. When you no longer depend on others to complete you, you enter relationships from a place of strength rather than neediness. You are not clinging to people out of fear of being alone, but instead choosing to share your life with them freely. This removes unnecessary pressure and fosters genuine connections based on love and respect rather than dependency. Your happiness becomes a gift you bring into relationships, not something you demand from them. Finding happiness in solitude also requires cultivating discipline over the mind and emotions, because being physically alone is not the same as being at peace within yourself. Many people avoid solitude not because they dislike quiet, but because their thoughts become overwhelming in silence. They replay past regrets, dwell on mistakes, or worry about the future. This mental noise robs them of peace and turns solitude into restlessness. The discipline of mastering your thoughts is essential to experiencing true contentment when alone. By learning how to observe your thoughts without being consumed by them, you begin to recognize which patterns serve you and which keep you trapped in negativity. Meditation, prayer, journaling, or simply practicing mindfulness are ways to train the mind to stay present. When you control your inner dialogue, solitude becomes less about battling anxieties and more about resting in clarity. The freedom comes from realizing that your mind does not have to be a battlefield. It can be a sanctuary if directed with intention. In addition to mental discipline, emotional independence is a powerful part of solitude. Many people tie their happiness to others' actions, seeking reassurance, comfort, or affirmation constantly. When this need is unmet, it creates frustration and resentment. Emotional independence teaches you to regulate your feelings without relying on someone else to validate or soothe you. This does not mean shutting people out or becoming indifferent. It means developing the maturity to acknowledge your emotions and process them constructively. In solitude, you practice sitting with your feelings, understanding their root, and channeling them in healthy ways. When you learn that your peace does not hinge on how others treat you or respond to you, you become less vulnerable to emotional manipulation. You begin to carry a sense of stability that others cannot disrupt, no matter how unpredictable they may be. Another key to finding joy in solitude is shifting perspective from loneliness to opportunity. Loneliness focuses on what is absent, while solitude emphasizes what is present. Loneliness says, "I have no one," whereas solitude says, "I have myself, my time, and my space to grow." The difference lies in perspective. By reframing the time you spend alone as an opportunity for personal development, creativity, or spiritual deepening, you transform it from a void into a gift. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life come during seasons of solitude. When distractions are minimized, inspiration flows and clarity emerges. Artists, writers, inventors, and spiritual leaders throughout history often retreated into solitude to birth their greatest ideas. The same is possible for anyone willing to embrace quiet moments as fertile ground rather than wasted time. A crucial part of enjoying solitude is investing in personal growth. Time spent alone should not simply be about avoiding others, but about intentionally building yourself. Solitude provides the perfect setting to learn new skills, pursue passions, set goals, or reflect on progress. By using solitude as a tool for self-improvement, you turn it into a season of empowerment rather than isolation. For example, reading uplifting books, learning a new language, practicing a hobby, or deepening spiritual knowledge are ways to make solitude meaningful. Instead of seeing it as time lost, You begin to see it as an investment in your future self. This mindset allows you to emerge from solitude stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled. Solitude also teaches patience and endurance. In a culture of instant gratification where people expect immediate responses, instant entertainment, and quick solutions, being alone can feel intolerable. But solitude trains you to slow down, to endure silence without rushing to fill it. This patience extends beyond solitude and strengthens your resilience in everyday life. You learn not to react impulsively to challenges, not to depend on immediate approval, and not to panic when results take time. Patience built in solitude creates a calm spirit capable of handling pressure, setbacks, or uncertainty with grace. Moreover, solitude helps to strengthen boundaries. When you are comfortable being alone, you are less likely to tolerate toxic behaviors just to avoid loneliness. Many people stay in unhealthy relationships or environments out of fear of isolation. But when solitude is embraced, you develop the courage to walk away from what drains you. You no longer compromise your values or endure mistreatment just for the sake of company. This inner strength to stand alone makes you far more selective about the people and influences you allow into your life. Solitude creates space for discernment, helping you recognize who truly adds value to your journey and who does not. Spending time alone also enhances creativity and problem solving. Without the constant noise of others' opinions, your mind is free to wander, imagine, and explore new ideas. Many solutions to problems appear during moments of quiet reflection, when you allow your thoughts to flow uninterrupted. Solitude provides the mental space needed for breakthroughs, whether in your career, relationships, or spiritual walk. By welcoming the silence, you open the door to insights that are often hidden in the business of life. Finally, solitude fosters gratitude. When you strip away distractions and external validations, you begin to notice the simple blessings around you. You become more aware of the beauty in small things, the sound of nature, the warmth of sunlight, the peace of a quiet room. Gratitude naturally flows when you stop chasing fulfillment outside and start noticing the richness of the present moment. This gratitude shifts your heart from lack to abundance, turning solitude into a deeply joyful experience. Another essential dimension of learning to be happy alone and finding true peace is cultivating a deep sense of self-awareness. Solitude becomes powerful when it is not merely the absence of people, but the presence of reflection. Self-awareness is the practice of turning inward to understand your motivations, desires, strengths, weaknesses, and patterns of behavior. In a world that constantly pushes you to look outward, toward achievements, possessions, or other people's approval, solitude allows you to direct that energy inward and truly meet yourself. Many people fear solitude because it forces them to confront truths they have avoided. But those who embrace it find that this confrontation is liberating. You start to see where you have been holding on to limiting beliefs, what wounds you still carry, and how your past shapes your present. This awareness becomes the first step in creating peace, because you can only transform what you are willing to acknowledge. Self-awareness in solitude is also about asking honest questions. Am I living in alignment with my values? Am I chasing things because they genuinely fulfill me or because society expects them of me? Do I love myself as I am? Or am I constantly trying to prove my worth through others? These reflections bring clarity. Without the noise of constant social interactions, your inner voice grows louder, guiding you toward truth. Over time, the practice of self-reflection shifts you from drifting aimlessly in life to moving with intention and purpose. You begin to live not as a reaction to the world, but as a conscious creator of your reality. That sense of direction is one of the purest sources of inner peace because uncertainty is replaced with self-understanding. Solitude also allows you to examine your relationship with the external world. It is easy to become entangled in roles, whether as a parent, partner, employee, or friend, and forget who you are outside of those labels. Solitude strips away these roles temporarily, leaving you face to face with your essence. It reminds you that your worth is not tied to your job title, the number of friends you have, or how others perceive you. When you discover this truth, You develop an identity that is rooted in who you are rather than what you do or who you please. This identity is far more stable because it cannot be taken away by circumstances or other people's changing opinions. It is in solitude that you reconnect with your authentic self and learn to stand firm in that authenticity. Developing self-awareness in solitude also strengthens emotional intelligence. By slowing down and examining your inner landscape, you begin to notice patterns in how you react to stress, conflict, or disappointment. Instead of being blindsided by emotions, you recognize them as they rise. This allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. For example, you may realize that anger often masks deeper feelings of fear or insecurity, or that sadness sometimes arises not because of loss, but because of unmet expectations. This level of understanding gives you power over your emotions rather than letting them control you. When you are emotionally intelligent, you no longer rely on external factors to dictate your peace because you know how to regulate yourself from within. Another aspect of solitude that fosters peace is the rediscovery of simplicity. The world glorifies business and complexity, filling lives with endless obligations, possessions, and distractions. Solitude strips life back to its essence. In the quiet, you realize that much of what you thought you needed was unnecessary. True contentment does not come from accumulating more, but from appreciating what is already there. You begin to value simple pleasures, moments of stillness, the sound of your own breath, the clarity of a thought, or the joy of a small daily ritual. This shift from chasing external validation to embracing simplicity brings a sense of freedom. You no longer feel enslaved to the endless pursuit of more, because you recognize that peace exists in the present, not in the next achievement or acquisition. Solitude also serves as a spiritual mirror, deepening your connection with something greater than yourself. For many, this is a time to draw closer to God, to seek guidance, strength, or comfort in prayer and meditation. In stillness, spiritual truths that were drowned out by life's noise begin to surface. You may sense divine presence more clearly, feel reassured that you are guided, and understand that you are never truly alone. Even for those not focused on religion, solitude awakens an awareness of being part of something vast and interconnected. Whether through observing nature, contemplating existence, or simply sitting in silence, solitude reminds you that you are both small and significant in the grand design of life. This spiritual awareness fosters peace because it anchors you in trust, reminding you that you do not need to carry the weight of the world alone. Through solitude and self-awareness, you also begin to heal from past wounds. Many people carry unresolved pain, whether from childhood, relationships, or disappointments. In the business of life, this pain often gets buried but never addressed. Solitude provides the space to bring it into the light, to process it, and to release it. While painful at first, this journey leads to freedom. You realize that healing is not about erasing the past, but about integrating it, learning from it, and no longer allowing it to define you. This emotional release paves the way for peace, because suppressed pain can no longer control your reactions or haunt your quiet moments. Finally, solitude cultivates resilience by teaching you that you can rely on yourself. When you face challenges, setbacks, or seasons of isolation, you will not crumble because you have built strength in solitude. You learn that being alone is not something to fear, but a resource to draw upon. Instead of seeking constant distraction, you know how to find peace within. That resilience makes you less dependent on others for stability and more confident in your ability to navigate life's storms. The realization that you carry within you the tools for peace, clarity, and strength is perhaps the greatest gift solitude offers. An important principle in learning to be happy alone and finding true peace is practicing self-love and self-compassion. So many people struggle with solitude not because of the silence itself, but because of the relationship they have with themselves. If you do not treat yourself with kindness, understanding, and respect, being alone can feel like punishment. However, when you shift your perspective and learn to embrace self-love, solitude becomes a sanctuary rather than a prison. Self-love is not about arrogance or selfishness. It is about recognizing your worth and treating yourself with the same gentleness you would extend to someone you deeply care about. When you stop criticizing yourself for every mistake and start valuing the effort you make every day, you create a sense of inner safety. That inner safety means you no longer fear being by yourself because your own presence is enough. Self-compassion plays a major role here. Often, people are their own harshest critics, replaying failures, regrets, and shortcomings in their minds. They may forgive others easily, but hold onto their own mistakes with unforgiving rigidity. Learning self-compassion means changing that internal dialogue. Instead of berating yourself for what went wrong, you learn to speak to yourself as you would a close friend with empathy, patience, and encouragement. This does not mean avoiding accountability, but it does mean acknowledging your humanity and allowing yourself space to grow without constant self-condemnation. When you treat yourself with compassion, you discover that peace naturally follows, because your inner world becomes a place of comfort rather than conflict. Another dimension of self-love is learning to set healthy boundaries. Many times people feel drained, unhappy, or restless in solitude because they are overextended in their relationships. They give too much of themselves to others while neglecting their own needs. Boundaries are not walls meant to shut people out, but protective lines that preserve your energy, time, and emotional health. By setting boundaries, you create space to prioritize self-care and personal growth. You no longer feel guilty for saying no when something threatens your peace or undermines your well-being. Boundaries allow you to protect the solitude that fuels your happiness. The more you practice this, the more empowered you feel in your interactions, and the less likely you are to feel used, taken advantage of, or dependent on external approval. Self-love also requires embracing your individuality. Society often pressures people to conform to certain ideals or lifestyles, whether it is how success should look, how relationships should function, or how happiness should be defined. In solitude, you have the chance to strip away those external standards and rediscover your uniqueness. What brings you joy may not align with what others value, and that is okay. Self-love means honoring your own preferences, dreams, and rhythms without apology. Whether it is enjoying a quiet morning with a book, taking a long walk in nature, or pursuing a creative passion, these small acts of honoring your individuality reinforce your self-worth. When you stop comparing yourself to others and accept yourself as you are, you unlock a deeper sense of peace that is independent of external validation. Another key element is practicing forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness. Holding on to guilt, shame, or regret can weigh heavily on your spirit, making solitude uncomfortable because those unhealed emotions surface when there are no distractions. Forgiveness allows you to release that burden. It does not mean excusing harmful behavior, but rather choosing not to let the past dictate your present or your peace. By forgiving yourself, you acknowledge that mistakes are part of the human experience and that growth often comes through failure. This release opens the door to joy because you are no longer living under the shadow of your past. Forgiveness clears space for self-love to flourish and transforms solitude into a time of renewal rather than regret. Self-care practices are another way to embody self-love in solitude. Taking care of your body, mind, and spirit is not indulgence but necessity. Simple routines like eating nourishing food, exercising, practicing meditation, journaling, or engaging in creative outlets all contribute to your sense of well-being. These practices send a powerful message to yourself that you are worth the time, effort, and care. Over time, consistent self-care builds resilience, boosts confidence, and anchors your peace in your daily rhythms. You begin to look forward to the moments you spend with yourself because they become times of restoration rather than loneliness. Self-love also influences how you view external relationships. When you learn to love yourself, you no longer tolerate toxic dynamics that drain your energy or diminish your worth. You stop chasing validation from people who do not value you, and instead gravitate toward relationships that are supportive, uplifting, and reciprocal. This shift happens naturally because the love you cultivate for yourself sets the standard for how others can treat you. Solitude becomes a tool of discernment, showing you clearly who contributes to your peace and who disrupts it. This clarity makes your social interactions healthier and more fulfilling, while solitude remains your foundation of stability. Another benefit of practicing self-love is the ability to enjoy the present moment without constantly striving for something more. Often, people think they will be happy when they achieve a certain milestone, earn a specific amount of money, or find a perfect partner. But when self-love is present, happiness is not postponed until some future event. It is found in the here and now, in the act of being with yourself fully and appreciating life as it unfolds. This presence creates inner peace because your joy is no longer conditional. You learn to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and feel content simply because you are enough as you are. Finally, self-love provides a strong foundation for resilience. Life will inevitably bring challenges, losses, and disappointments. Without self-love, these experiences can break your spirit because you depend on outside circumstances to sustain you. But when you have cultivated love and compassion for yourself, you can weather storms with strength. You remind yourself that no matter what happens externally, you have your own support internally. That inner security becomes an anchor in the face of uncertainty. In this way, solitude becomes not something to avoid, but something to cherish, because it reminds you of the relationship that will carry you through every season of life, the one you have with yourself. Gratitude is one of the most powerful principles that allows a person to be happy alone and to find true peace. It is the conscious choice to shift focus from what is missing to what is already present, from what has gone wrong to what is still right. Many people feel restless in solitude because they dwell on the absence of external validation, companionship, or achievements. They constantly compare their lives to others and measure their worth by what they lack. Gratitude dismantles this cycle by training the mind to see abundance instead of scarcity. When you are grateful for the small blessings in your life, the roof over your head, the meal on your plate, the health you still have, or even the air you breathe, you begin to understand that peace and contentment are not found in grand external circumstances, but in the simple recognition of life's everyday gifts. Practicing gratitude does not mean denying pain, disappointment, or struggle. It does not mean pretending that challenges do not exist. Rather, it is about choosing where to direct your focus. Even in seasons of hardship, there are reasons to be thankful. You might not control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you interpret those events. For example, instead of only mourning the loss of a relationship, gratitude can help you appreciate the lessons it taught you, the growth it pushed you toward, and the resilience it built within you. Instead of resenting solitude, you can learn to see it as a gift of time to heal, to reflect, to rest, and to discover yourself without distraction. This perspective shift nurtures peace because gratitude anchors you in the richness of the present, instead of leaving you trapped in dissatisfaction. Solitude offers a unique opportunity to cultivate gratitude more deeply. When you are constantly surrounded by noise, people, or distractions, it becomes easy to overlook life's small blessings. But when you are alone, you have the silence and space to notice them. You might notice the warmth of sunlight through a window, the calming sound of rain, the beauty of a tree outside, or even the quiet strength you feel within. These small details, when acknowledged with gratitude, can uplift your spirit and bring a sense of calm that no external validation can replace. Gratitude allows you to enjoy the moment without needing anyone else to validate it for you. It connects you to life on a deeper level, showing you that joy can be found in simplicity. Another transformative aspect of gratitude is the way it reduces comparison. Much of the unhappiness people feel comes from comparing themselves to others, looking at what someone else has, what they are achieving, or how they appear to be happier. Gratitude interrupts that cycle by drawing your attention back to your own blessings. When you start each day with a grateful heart, listing even the smallest things you appreciate, your focus shifts inward and your peace grows stronger. The more grateful you are for what you already have, the less you crave constant affirmation or envy what others possess. Gratitude roots you in contentment making solitude not a punishment, but a sacred space where you realize your life is already filled with goodness. Gratitude also strengthens resilience. Life will always have moments of difficulty, but gratitude allows you to frame those moments differently. Instead of viewing hardships as proof that life is unfair, gratitude teaches you to see them as opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. When you focus on what remains instead of what was lost, you preserve your inner peace even in storms. For example, during times of financial struggle, gratitude for your resourcefulness and the support of loved ones can keep you steady. During personal disappointments, gratitude for your ability to try again provides hope. Gratitude does not eliminate challenges, but it transforms your inner posture so you face them with strength and calm instead of bitterness. Scientific research even shows that gratitude positively impacts mental health. People who practice gratitude regularly report higher levels of happiness, reduced stress, and greater life satisfaction. Gratitude rewires the brain to notice positives more frequently, breaking the habit of dwelling on negatives. This has a direct effect on solitude. Instead of loneliness, you experience peace. Instead of emptiness, you feel fulfillment. When you are grateful, you no longer see solitude as a void, but as a canvas on which to appreciate life's blessings more vividly. Another important aspect of gratitude is how it changes relationships. When you practice gratitude for yourself and your journey, you approach others with less neediness and more generosity. You are no longer looking for others to fill a void inside you, because gratitude has already filled it. This makes relationships healthier and more genuine, free from desperation or unhealthy dependency. Gratitude allows you to love more freely, not because you need people to complete you, but because you genuinely value their presence as an addition, not a requirement. When solitude is filled with gratitude, you bring that same peaceful energy into your interactions with others, creating harmony rather than conflict. Gratitude also deepens self-acceptance. Many people are harsh on themselves, constantly striving to be more, do more, or achieve more. Gratitude helps you pause and acknowledge how far you have already come. It allows you to appreciate your efforts, your strengths, and even your imperfections, recognizing them as part of your unique journey. When you look at yourself through the lens of gratitude, you stop fighting who you are and start embracing yourself with compassion. This creates a peaceful inner environment that makes being alone not just bearable but enjoyable. Lastly, gratitude brings spiritual grounding. Regardless of personal beliefs, gratitude creates a sense of connection to something greater than oneself. It humbles the ego by reminding you that life's blessings are not owed but received. Whether you frame it as being thankful to God, to life, or simply to existence itself, gratitude lifts your perspective beyond your own struggles and fills you with awe for the gift of life itself. This sense of wonder cultivates profound inner peace because you realize that even in solitude you are never truly empty. You are surrounded by blessings that, once acknowledged, make your heart overflow.